So for some of you may have noticed there's a couple mics just standing there all alone in the middle of the room. There's one over here, and there's one right over here. So for the Q&A, because I know you guys all took notes, right? And so you guys can just start to form kind of a line where, for questions, and we'll have a Q&A session, probably about 20 minutes here. And then we'll just get started. So you guys have heard from the women here, so you can ask a question either to the panel all up or just to even one of them specifically. But we'll get us started. So any starting questions, or oh, wow, Erin, she's there. She's on it. Oh, question.
Hi, Erin.
Hi.
I'm Erin. Hi, ladies. What decision or decisions have kept you up at night, and how have you resolved them?
Okay, that's a really hard question. I would say the decisions that have kept me up at night, frankly, are around, did we take the right action on someone, right? One of the things that I always try to drive is consistency in application of policies and how we're holding people accountable, but there is always that gray area, right? Because every situation is different. And so there's been times when, whether it's we took action and relieved someone of their responsibilities, or we didn't relieve them of their responsibilities. And I think those are the ones, without going into too many details, those are the ones that I think they keep you up at night because, you're affecting somebody's life. People always say to me, well, why'd you go into HR? I'm like, because I do want to help people kind of move forward, and I think the tough ones have been when you're realizing that someone's employment is going to end for whatever reason. It's tough, and it's tough to deal with that, and know, especially if that person's going to have to go home and tell their family. Because I've been on the receiving end of that as well. I've lost my job, and my dad lost his job, and I've seen that. So those are the ones that I think keep you up at night, and then I think how I've dealt with it is, you come back the next day and you try to deal with the fallout if that person is no longer there, and being open and authentic and having conversations with the team, and acknowledging that it's kind of sucks, right? Especially if it was no fault of their own, it was a pure layoff situation. But if it was something that they did that was really wrong, you always want to you don't want to violate their privacy, but you also want to make sure people understand that there was a legitimate reason. And so I think you can't avoid it. You just got to deal with it the next day.
I would say very similar. Mandy talked about we were, going through these restructures, downsizing. It seems to be, every other year sort of thing that you do, especially when companies are trying to be agile and flexible with the growing change of the customer, technology, those sort of things. And as you're going through that process, in the role prior to the role I was in, I talked about sort of leading the NABQ strategy for the manufacturing and warehouse organization. Part of that is, do you shutter facilities? Do you reduce the footprint? All those sort of tough decisions, discussions, and you want to make sure that you're building the strategy that's right. So one is, what is the footprint going to be that's going to take you to the future? And then all the people impacted as you're going through that. So I think it's something similar. I am, there are two types of cultures. There's one where you should keep everything under a tent and not really discuss it and unfold it. And I'm definitely one that feels like we should be transparent and discuss and try to bring people along where we can. And I think that seems to lead to more win-win scenarios versus, walking in on a Tuesday and, having to have the discussion. So I think when I'm living in the spaces where it's more transparent, while I'm still having sleepless nights, I feel like we're doing the right thing, if that makes sense.
So from a business perspective, running a startup is really not that different from running a nonprofit. So cash flow is the issue that keeps you up at night, and are we going to make payroll this week? But for me, personally, I think the question is actually more, one of my values is commitment, and I have chosen different positions based on my passion for what I'm doing. And so I'll be the one going down with the ship. That's my natural instinct, right? And so I've had to learn, after I've been miserable for a long period of time, when it's time to move on. And so I'm trying to shorten that time. It was 2 years, and then it was 1 year, and I'm hoping I'm getting down to 6 months. It's just something that works so well, that you love so much and works so great for a while, and you think, I want to get that back. How can I get that back? And there's a lot of factors in there, and so sometimes you just have to move on.
Yeah, Danielle, quick question, and then we'll jump to you. Are there triggers that you see? So you just had a great epiphany on how do I shorten that gap, right? What are some of the things I've learned to just kind of make that less painful, right? So are there triggers that you now kind of go, yeah, this is what it looks like, starting to smell like this. I think this might be what are some of those triggers?
I mean, I think it's so obvious to anyone from the outside. I'm not sleeping. I'm working all the time and focused really on getting the task done at hand instead of spending quality time with the people. And I'm definitely not getting outdoors and doing the things that really rejuvenate my soul.
Thank you. All right, next question.
Hi, I'm Julie Cook from Lazy Boy, and I would love to hear the panel talk about thoughts, tips, tricks in negotiating for salary or title or enhancements to roles you've had. I know it's kind of a general question, but would just love to hear how you've done it successfully or heard others do it successfully. I think that's one of the areas that my girlfriends and I, and even coworkers, as a woman, it's kind of my biggest regret. I don't think I've advocated for my value over the course of my career, and it is stinging and painful to hear Mandy's stats on it, because I think I'm lumped in that, and my vow moving forward is to be better at that. And I've made some progress, but probably not as good as I could have. So I'd love to hear how you guys have seen it done successfully. Thanks.
Great question.
I don't know if I'm the best one at this, even though I am in HR, because my husband's mad at me that I didn't negotiate harder when we came out here. I was just so excited. I mean, I think it kind of comes back to what you had said earlier. You got to ask for what you want. I have a peer of mine who I admire so much, and I feel like I'm learning from her a ton. And, she's it's almost non-negotiable for her not to negotiate. And she was telling me a story recently about a headhunter had called her about an opportunity. And, I mean, she just up front, because you're always coached, right? Don't ask about money first. But she's like, you know what? I'm not going to waste your time. Let's make sure this is worth us. What's your range? Where are you at? And they told her, and she's like, not high enough. She's like, I'm sorry, I don't want to talk to you. And they came back, like, well, what would it be? And I said, well, you got to at least be at this, and then we can talk. And she's like, you need to understand what I value myself at, what I know my market value is. And so you got to do your research, right? And so know the market value, and really sell the experiences that you've had, and don't settle. And it's hard. And know what it is, right? So look at your total comp package. So I think base is absolutely key, right? Because that's what you're taking home. But you got to also look at, is there an equity play? Is there a bonus? Is there free insurance? You do need to look at the total package and then decide what's the most important for you. If take-home pay is the most important for you, then you better go for that base salary. If it's building long-term wealth, then maybe the equity is a better play. If it's having free amenities at work, then cool, go for a company that offers that. But make sure you're looking at the full package and don't just jump at the first thing. And the other thing I tell people, and this is what I did, I left a lot on the table when I left GE. I was at a level where I had a supplemental pension. Most companies don't even have a regular pension. I had a pension plus a supplemental. When I left, I lost my supplemental. Now, I wouldn't have got that until I retired anyways, which at my age, it's probably not going to be till my 70s because I had kids later in life. But, you know, it's a lot of money. So I crunched the numbers on our internal website as to what the potential value would be. So when Tesla came to me, I said, here's what I'm leaving on the table. What can you do? Now, maybe the base wasn't where it should have been, but you know what? They were able to help out quite a bit from an equity perspective to make up for that. And my logic and thought was, well, I'm going to get that money sooner than my 70s, and maybe I can actually invest it and do something with it. So just make sure you're doing all of that. Don't just accept the first thing. It never hurts to ask. The worst they're going to say is no.
And I'll just build on that. I mean, I think Laura said it perfectly. You know, my grandmother has a phase. And when Laura said it, I was like, oh, I should have said with my grandmother's face. But I think it relates here. So she always says, hey, like, what do you want? She tells me, you know, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So if you stay closed, it's never going to get fed. So I say that, I always use that in a presentation when I'm speaking to women. You should walk in the room, you should have a voice, so a closed mouth doesn't get fed. But saying that, I think there's two different scenarios. If you're looking for a job, it's like easier to negotiate, I feel like, right? But if you're in a job and you're seeking promotion, you're seeking raise, those are the harder conversations generally. So I think a couple things that I just try to tell people are, one, make sure you and your current boss are calibrated on your performance. That's the first thing. Like, make sure that person's clear, you're clear. Am I a superstar? Am I kind of average? Whatever. Just make sure that you're calibrated. And then two, ask for what you need. What do you think is fair? But do some research, right? For me, people do, there are people within the organization that could be safe zone individuals for you. Do some research by leveraging those individuals. I'll use Mandy, for example. I had some other HR people that are in my network today that I will calibrate with, and I'll send people to if they want to calibrate. But I think you have to do some research, but then as long as you're calibrated with your boss on your performance, it becomes an easier discussion when you're asking for more than the 2.5% on an annual basis that you might get, if that makes sense, okay? Cost of living increase, that kind of thing.
Anything to add, Danielle?
So I'm thinking about when I was at Planned Parenthood and had this opportunity to kind of merge two positions into one. And I did the research on as far as what the salary ranges were, and I asked for the top of that range, right? So I think having the confidence to believe in yourself that you're worth it is number one. And then the second is the mindset when you're doing that. So whether you play your little anthem of worth it when you come on stage, or you stand up. I was doing a phone interview, and so I was able to put on my power heels and stand up and walk around while I was negotiating, and that helped a lot. So whatever it is to kind of get yourself fired up so that you're really embodying and feeling that you're worth it, that you deserve it, that the power's yours.
That's awesome. I love the power heels. And we'll get right there to your next question. Just one last thing. I do think language is important. So I think if you kind of come out swinging, and this is what, again, Mandy talked about out with the old, in with the new. So help me understand. Would you be open to, right? You want to leave the, do you think, I possibly, just might, I kind of had, right? You want to leave all that BS out the door. But you want the language to be a little bit more of a, come from an understanding, because you really want to know what they think, right? Like, why is this decision made? Why am I at this level that I'm at, right? So I think that's good. And then also press your managers. So to your point, that's what they get paid for, right? So I think a lot of people don't even use that relationship. They just kind of go, okay, yeah, this looks good. Okay, this transaction occurred, and I'd press them. So tell me what else. Like, how can you help build me? Like, and really push them. Yeah, they need to be on the hook, right? So it's their accountability. So I think that's the other two I would add. So go ahead.
Hi, my name is Madison Artist. I do onboarding at Giga, so hi, Laura. And my question just revolves around like starting out. So I'm really new in my career, ultimately, like probably 3 years if we're being realistic here. And so I'm wondering, from your perspective, is there anything that you wish you'd done differently when you were at my stage to get, you guys, obviously everything happens for a reason and you are where you are, but we talked about the shortcuts. Are there any shortcuts so I don't have to do it? So I don't have to go the long way,
In
Thank
nylons.
Yeah.
So I may not have all the answers to the shortcuts, but I will just tell you from my personal experience what I would have did differently, and it's something that actually Laura said too. So in my story, I talked about how I grew up very vertically, right? All sort of the M&W, in PepsiCo, we call it manufacturing warehouse because they're kind of tied together plants. So I grew up in the plant environment in every role, like, tick, 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 tick. But then I got into the strategy role, so I was a senior director trying to lead strategy across the entire organization that now included sales and delivery and so on, and I only had a little bit of knowledge about it, right? But I had a deep knowledge in the M&W. And so if I were to do it again, I would have took horizontal movements across the organization, because as I would have got to a senior level, I would have had more sort of nuggets of information, more sort of powerful understanding, broader understanding of the business. And I think a lot of organizations are looking for that diverse sort of profile now. They're not looking for the people that are just grew up. I mean, in some cases, like if you're engineer specific, they are. But a lot of times they're looking for someone that can bring diverse experiences to think outside the box, change the game. So the more you have, I think it's significantly better.
Yeah, I would also say that chart your own path, and don't. I get employees that come to me a lot too, and what's my career path? What should I do? Well, if I had done that, right, I wouldn't be where I'm at, frankly. I kind of bounced around and did my own thing. But very, very early on, I think one of my biggest mistakes that I wish I hadn't done was compare myself to my peers, especially coming out of grad school, right? Because I went to a great program, one of the best for HR, everyone sought after us, and I remember I had one girl in my class who had 6 offers coming out of school, and we were all like, 6 offers? I'm like, I'm lucky I got 1. I was a terrible interviewer. I was way too honest. And it's like terrible. But I found that I was like comparing myself to my contemporaries, and I'm like, at some point I finally realized I just need to stop that and just think about my own career and what I'm building and what I'm doing. It's very easy to get caught up in the competitiveness. And I think, I forget who made the comment about women. Women can be vicious. And I've seen it. I supported a VP of engineering back in GE who, oh my God, it was crazy how she would be towards other women sometimes. And if you were in her inner circle and favorites, she would help you rise up. And if not, you better get out of her way. And so I think it's, we need to help each other out and share in each other's successes too. I remember there was somebody at Peer Mine who got promoted before me, and I talked to our female boss, and I was trying to understand why Renee got promoted before I did. And I remember Denise told me, well, it was her time, and she was next in line. And that for me was like, what? Seriously? Like, have you seen what I've done? But rather than be happy for Renee, I was bitter about it. And I shouldn't have been that. I should have been happy for her success. Now, my boss gave me a stupid answer, but I mean, it kind of also helps me when I look at my team and developing my team. But
Great. Danielle, I'm actually going to give you this next question. A little shaking it up a bit. Okay, you ready for this? We're ready. Last question.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were going to say the question.
That
was my cue.
I was teeing you up.
Hi, I'm Karen Jensen, and I own a human resource consulting firm in Reno here now for 16 years, and I'm super passionate, especially for women, because we're doing that whole balance thing and time management, and it's hard to fit it all in. So what is your number one tip as far as how you manage your time so that you have it all, which I'm always after?
This is a great question. Danielle, you got a lot going on. I want to hear this.
The answer
That was perfect for you.
Having a good morning routine. How you start your morning sets the tone for the day. And I found that I need at least half an hour, if not 2 hours if I can, of alone time, right? And so what might happen during all of that time might be meditation or journaling or reading or working out, going for a run, doing whatever I need to do to get my mind right, to keep clear. And if I have that time, and it's in the morning, so nothing else can distract it, right? If I can knock off that time, you know, it might be 5 to 6:30 for you, or it might be 6 to 7:30, or whatever it is. If you can build that time, then the rest of your day doesn't really matter. It's just gravy. I mean, you've already taken care of you.
Great, nice answer. Okay, so I think we're gonna transit. Hey, if you guys still have questions, keep taking the notes, because we're gonna have our networking, our cocktail, right after the day, and then during breaks. I saw a lot of people talking to our panelists and asking questions, and people are still interested. So keep that momentum going, and we'll get those answered. So I'm handing it off now to Mandy.